wanted for food safety training. This is John. He's never worked in the food industry before. Over the next few days, he'll make mistakes. Learn from them. And at the end, he'll be one of the most effective members of the team. Watch out for this sign throughout the video. And see where John makes mistakes and puts food at risk. There are many ways food can be put at risk and made unsafe to eat. This in turn can lead to food poisoning. Food poisoning is an unpleasant condition, and for infants, pregnant women, the frail elderly and the sick, it's very serious and can be fatal. So who can prevent food poisoning? You can. Throughout this video, you'll see John learning about personal hygiene, cross-contamination and the need to separate, food safety hazards, temperature control, the 6 stages of cleaning, accepting a delivery, and the importance of being able to show what you know. So why do you need to know all of this?
It's not only my job to ensure that the food is tasty going out, but also that it's safe and that it's not going to do any harm to anybody.
When babies get sick, it's atrocious for them and it's atrocious for the family. It's just a horrendous experience.
Basically, the more attention I pay to food safety, customers are always happy, they'll always come back and just won't have any complaints.
Well, it's part of my job to make sure that everything's in date and safe for the customer to eat. My job depends on that.
But as an environmental health officer, we need to ensure that high standards of food safety are practiced in every premises. And any person, even who has the smallest role in food production, can have a huge impact on food safety. And everybody has to ensure that safe food is produced.
There are many different jobs in the food industry. You may work in a factory, in a restaurant, in a shop, or in a pub. Whatever your job, you are the most important person in the food chain, and this video is about you and what you can do to help make food safe for everyone. Safe food. It's up to you. Module 1. Personal Hygiene. Bacteria are tiny living structures that you can only see with a microscope. If they're allowed to grow and multiply, they can make food unsafe to eat and may even cause food poisoning. They're found everywhere, in soil, on animals, on food, and on people. This means that bacteria are on you too. On your hands, in your hair and all over your clothes. This makes you a danger to food. So what can you do about it? You can protect food from the bacteria on yourself by keeping clean, washing yourself every day and washing your hands often. Let's see how John is getting on. John, where's that coat bin? Here. Here. Here, and here. It's important to wear clean, protective clothing. Where could that hair end up? She knows what can happen if a stray hair finds its way into food. An easy way to prevent this is to put your hairnet on first. Protective clothing is designed to protect both you and the food you're preparing. The job you do will determine the kind of protective clothing you need to wear. It must be clean, and you must not wear it outside of your workplace. Bacteria are everywhere, so unless you want air in your food, your protective clothing must be put on from head to toe. John, where have those hands been? Here, here, and here. When you're working with food, you can't wash your hands too often, but you must wash them properly. Use a hand wash sink. Use hot water and unscented soap. Rub your hands together for 15 to 20 seconds and make sure to wash your wrists, palms, back of hands, fingers and under fingernails. Then rinse your hands thoroughly under hot running water and dry your hands and arms using disposable towels. Here's a handy reminder to help you remember when to wash your hands. Before starting work or starting again after a break. After using the toilet. Before handling cooked or ready-to-eat foods. After handling or preparing raw food. After handling rubbish. After smoking. After coughing, sneezing, using a handkerchief, blowing your nose, or touching your hair, skin, or face. After cleaning duties. After shaking hands. And after handling money. If you're wearing disposable gloves, then remember they are disposable and you must change them as often as you'd wash your hands. If you're unwell, go and tell. You may be carrying bacteria and you may spread them to the food you're preparing. Don't suffer in silence. Tell your supervisor if you're feeling ill and don't handle food until your supervisor's happy that you're better. Poor John. You can't work with food when you've a cut in your finger. A blue plaster will always be easy to spot if it falls off John's finger. Good personal hygiene is good sense, and it's your responsibility to make sure that you're not spreading bacteria. Remember to wear clean, protective clothing and dress from head to toe. Wash your hands properly. And if you're unwell, go and tell. Every time you get ready for work, remember that your hands, your health and your good sense could mean the difference between safe food and unsafe food. This is what personal hygiene is all about. Module 2. Separate. You now know that bacteria are found everywhere. Most bacteria are actually harmless, but some are very dangerous indeed and can cause food poisoning. These foods are high risk because they're ready to eat, so any bacteria they're carrying won't be killed by further cooking. Other high-risk foods include raw meat, poultry and fish because they may contain bacteria which could be transferred onto other foods. Bacteria don't really like dried foods or foods with a lot of salt or sugar, so these are low risk. In your battle against bacteria, the only way you can keep food safe is to store it correctly, all the time. If you store high-risk foods at room temperature, the bacteria will grow and contaminate the food, making it unsafe. All you have to do to avoid this is store these foods at the right temperature. John knows that he has to store cooked ham in the fridge. Afraid not, John. Cooked ham in a raw meat fridge? Raw food can contaminate cooked or ready-to-eat foods with harmful bacteria. This is called cross-contamination. This happens when bacteria go from raw to ready-to-eat foods. In your workplace, make sure you know where the designated areas are for raw and for cooked food. And make sure you never confuse the two. If you work with raw food, you need to be especially careful of cross-contamination. Even if raw food is contaminated, you can prevent cross-contamination by keeping cooked or ready-to-eat food and raw food separate and storing them properly. Always wash your hands between handling raw and cooked or ready-to-eat foods, and make sure to keep your work surfaces and utensils clean and disinfected. If you must keep raw and cooked meats in the same fridge, make sure to store cooked meat on the top and raw meat on the bottom. John is cutting raw sausages and tomatoes on the same board with the same knife. Keep ready-to-eat and raw food separate to make sure you don't cross-contaminate. Bring a little colour to your workplace to help you remember which utensils go with which food. Put your battle plan into action now. Even though you can't see bacteria, you must still fight it by keeping raw and ready-to-eat foods away from each other. Remember, separate, don't cross-contaminate. Module 3. Hazards. A food safety hazard is something that can cause harm. Hazards can be biological hazards like bacteria, physical hazards like pens or earrings, or chemical hazards such as cleaning fluid. Let's first take a look at biological hazards. Bacteria need food, warmth, moisture and time to grow and multiply. Their favourite foods are high-risk foods like meat, fish and dairy products. Just like us humans, bacteria also need warmth, and they grow best when it's nice and warm. As well as food and warmth, bacteria also need moisture. And finally, bacteria need time to grow and multiply, but they don't need much time. In fact, bacteria double in number every 20 minutes, and at room temperature they can multiply into millions in only a few hours. Your best weapons against bacteria are heat and cold. Bacteria are killed dead at a temperature of 75 degrees centigrade. So once this chicken is fully cooked, there'll be no bacteria left alive on it. When you put food in the fridge, bacteria go to sleep, so they can't grow. So keep hot food hot to handle and cold food cold to hold. Physical hazards are certainly easier to spot than bacteria for most of us. If you can't spot a physical hazard, your customers will be only too happy to point it out. When your customers order food, they expect to get food, not plastic or hair or glass or any other physical hazard. It's up to you to keep your workplace clean so that no physical hazard makes it into your food. Your customers don't want to be eating chemicals they didn't ask for either. Chemicals include disinfectants, cleaning products, and even perfume or deodorants. So make sure you always wash fruit and vegetables. Put away all open food before cleaning. And don't wear heavy scented perfumes or aftershaves. Remember, a food safety hazard is anything that can cause harm. To avoid chemical hazards, use a designated container and always use food-safe chemicals in the correct concentrations. Keep your workplace free from physical hazards and remember the 4 things that bacteria need to grow: food, warmth, moisture and time. In your job, you may be involved in a high-risk activity. This is where high-risk foods are prepared and a large number of consumers can be put at risk. Even if you're working with low-risk foods, you also need to be aware of food safety hazards and always be ready to fight. Module 4. Temperature Control. Bacteria are very like us human beings. We're most active between 5 and 63 years of age, and bacteria are most active between 5 and 63 degrees centigrade. So in your battle against bacteria, heat and cold are your best weapons. John has just taken a delivery of dairy goods. He takes them into the correct fridge. What could possibly go wrong? John has left